Hi there, welcome along to Good Morning Transfers. We are into
taking news to bring you, and this looks like really good news for Arsenal fans. That's because
Arsenal have suffered another major setback in their pursuit of Kenan Yıldız, with Juventus making their position clear. The Italian giants have no intention of selling their Turkish attacking star this summer. The situation has become increasingly difficult for Arsenal after Juventus renewed Yıldız's contract earlier this year. On February 7th, 2026, Juventus officially announced that the 21-year-old had signed a new contract keeping him at the club until June 30th, 2030. That new contract is now one of the biggest reasons why Arsenal's hopes of bringing Yıldız to North London have suffered a serious blow. Arsenal have been monitoring the Juventus forward as they continue looking for attacking reinforcements. Reports in recent weeks have linked the Gunners with a renewed attempt to sign Yıldız after their pursuit of other elite attacking targets became complicated. However, Juventus have repeatedly communicated that Yıldız is not available for sale. According to recent reports, Arsenal previously made an inquiry about the player, but Juventus rejected the approach and made it clear that the Turkish international was not on the market. Arsenal have since continued to be linked with the player, but Juventus's position has remained unchanged. Juventus have closed the door. The biggest obstacle for Arsenal is not simply Yıldız's valuation, it is Juventus's determination to keep him. Yıldız is regarded as one of the central figures in Juventus's long-term project. The decision to give him a contract until 2030 was a major statement of intent from the touring club. Juventus did not renew his contract with the expectation of selling him a few months later. Instead, the club wants to build around the young attacker and develop him into one of the faces of the team. That makes an Arsenal transfer extremely complicated. Recent reports have stated that Juventus have no plans to sell Yıldız, even if a significant offer arrives. Arsenal's interest remains for Arsenal, however. The interest in Yıldız is understandable. The Turkish international can operate from the left wing, play behind the striker and contribute as an attacking midfielder. His versatility makes him an attractive option for Mikel Arteta as Arsenal continue to search for additional attacking quality. The Gunners have already made an inquiry and reports indicate that they remain interested despite Juventus's resistance. But there is a major difference between Arsenal being interested in Yıldız and Juventus being willing to negotiate his transfer. At the moment, Juventus are firmly on the second side of that equation. Why the new contract matters? Yıldız's contract extension is particularly important because it changed the balance of power. Before the renewal, other clubs could at least hope that Juventus might consider a major offer for the player. After the renewal, Juventus demonstrated that they wanted to secure Yıldız's future in Turin. The contract now runs until 2030, giving Juventus significant control over the player's future. That does not legally make a transfer impossible. A club can always decide to sell a player under contract if the circumstances change. But in Yıldız's case, the current information points in the opposite direction. Juventus are not looking for a buyer, they are looking to keep him. The Arsenal deal has collapsed. But not in the traditional sense for Arsenal supporters. The phrase deal collapsed needs to be understood carefully. There is no reliable evidence that Arsenal and Juventus had reached a completed transfer agreement for Yıldız before the move collapsed. Instead, what has effectively collapsed is Arsenal's hope of quickly turning their interest into a transfer because Juventus have rejected the idea of selling their star. The Gunners can continue to monitor the situation, but Juventus's current position leaves Arsenal with a very difficult task. The club from Turin has already rejected approaches and continues to regard Yıldız as a key part of its plans. Arsenal face a major decision. Arsenal now have to decide whether they want to continue pushing for Yıldız despite Juventus's resistance or move towards alternative targets. A very large offer could potentially test Juventus's resolve, but current reporting suggests that the Italian club is not actively inviting offers. That means Arsenal cannot simply assume that offering a particular amount will automatically lead to negotiations. Juventus's message has been consistent. Yıldız is an important player and the club wants him to remain in Turin. The final situation. As things stand, Kenan Yıldız remains a Juventus player with the contract running until June 2030. Arsenal remain interested, but Juventus have no current plan to sell him. The new contract signed in February is a major part of the story because it demonstrates Juventus's commitment to the Turkish star. Therefore, the most accurate description of the situation is that Arsenal's pursuit has suffered a major collapse because Juventus have closed the door on a sale, rather than claiming that a completed Arsenal-Juventus transfer agreement was cancelled. For Arsenal fans hoping to see Yildiz wearing the red and white shirt, the message from Turin is currently very clear. Juventus want to keep their number 10. And unless that position changes dramatically, Kenan Yildiz is expected to remain in Turin despite Arsenal's continued interest. Juventus's decision changes everything for Arsenal. The latest developments have made Arsenal's pursuit of Kenan Yildiz even more difficult. Arsenal have renewed their interest in the Juventus attacker after missing out on Vinicius Jr., but the response from Turin has been clear. Yildiz is not considered available for sale this summer. Goal +1. This is important because Arsenal's interest is genuine, but there is currently no completed transfer agreement between the two clubs. Recent reports indicate that Arsenal previously made an inquiry and were told that Juventus did not want to sell their young star. Yahoo Sports +1. Juventus are protecting their investment. Juventus's decision to keep Yildiz is closely connected to the club's long-term plans. The Turkish international has developed into one of the most important young players at the club. After an impressive 2025/26 campaign, in which he contributed 20 goals and assists across competitions according to recent reporting, his importance to Juventus has only increased. Goal for Juventus. Selling him now would therefore mean losing a player they see as part of their future. The new long-term contract makes that position even stronger. Rather than preparing Yildiz for a potential departure, Juventus have effectively demonstrated that they want to build around him. Arsenal keep looking for a way in. Despite Juventus's position, Arsenal have not completely abandoned their interest. Reports from August indicate that the Gunners are continuing to monitor Yildiz and have considered making another approach. Read Arsenal +1. This explains why the story has continued to develop, despite Juventus repeatedly saying the player is not for sale. Arsenal see Yildiz as a potential solution to their need for additional attacking quality. His ability to operate as a winger or attacking midfielder makes him particularly attractive to Mikel Arteta. But there is a significant difference between Arsenal wanting Yildiz and Juventus being prepared to negotiate for him. At this moment, Juventus control the situation. The price is not the main problem. Some reports have suggested figures around €100 million or more could be required if Juventus ever decided to entertain an offer. Football transfers +1. However, the biggest problem for Arsenal is not necessarily the transfer fee. It is Juventus's willingness to sell. If Juventus were actively looking for a buyer, Arsenal could negotiate over the price. But when a club considers a player effectively untouchable, even a huge proposal may not immediately open negotiations. That is why the new contract is so important. What the contract means for Arsenal Yildiz's long-term commitment to Juventus gives the Italian club a strong negotiating position. Arsenal cannot simply wait for his contract to approach its final year. Juventus have protected themselves by tying the player down for the long term, meaning there is no immediate contractual pressure to sell. Consequently, Arsenal would need Juventus to change their sporting plans before a transfer could become realistic. That is precisely why describing the current situation as a collapsed deal needs some caution. There was interest, there were approaches, there have been reports of potential offers, but there is no solid evidence that Arsenal and Juventus reached a final agreement before the move collapsed. The more